Audit the soul. Sign the blade. Audit the soul. Sign the blade.
Yeah, signing the declaration, admitting the absolute gravity of the wreckage, paying the psychological debt, clearing out the heavy emotional check-in. I look at the historical data, look at the trail of the total devastation. An absolute forensic analysis of my own corrupted manipulation. I was a monster in the environment, a parasite running on the pure ego. Slamming the heavy iron boots down everywhere the dark shadows go. No excuses in the inventory, no rationalization for the damage done. Standing completely exposed underneath the eclipse of the freezing sun. I broke the promises, shattered the trust, lay out like a pane of thin glass. Running a high velocity campaign of destruction that was built to outlast. The hypocrisy was thick, a sickening exhaust pouring straight from the lungs. Boomed into innocent people with the venom of the weaponized tongues. I was cold-blooded when it insulated from the misery that I would create, fulfilling the coolest parameters of a self-serving hostile fate. Now I am pulling the files out, laying the receipts flat on the death sheet. The definitive documentation of my total moral collapse and defeat. Multi-syllabic confessions detailing the exact timeline of the crime, wasting the loyalty of the ones who perfected my coordinates for a long time. I look at the photograph of the past, seeing the mirror of a true villain, the absolute execution of the piece that you were safely and purely in. I am signing the signature hard, taking full custody of the entire blame name, terminating the defensive shield, stepping out of the manipulation game. The configuration was toxic, the infrastructure was built on the lies, staring at the ruins of your kindness with a stone cold remorseful eye. No poetry available to soften the strike of this clinical admission tool. Graduated cleanly from the absolute worst and most destructive school. I am the independent auditor of my own historical breakdown grid, exposing the tracking codes of every single selfish thing that I did. The furnace is hot, melting the pride down into the scrap floor dirt, calculating the exact magnitude of the multi-layered internal hurt. This is the master statement, the official legal notice of my regret, the heaviest accountability that your ecosystem has ever explicitly met.
Audit the soul. Sign the blame. Audit the soul. Sign the blame.
The defensive architecture has officially flatlined to zero.
Liability.
The ledger is entirely black. There is no escape route.
No way of heading back.
I was the monster, I brought the destruction down, burning the entire infrastructure of the town. The alibis are smashed,
The concession is hard.
the absolute breakdown of the internal guard. I look at the people I abandoned, left stranded out in the freezing cold rain, while I was systematically accelerating the velocity of my selfish gain. The greed for the power, greed for the control was a blinding black smoke, suffocating the relationship lines until the entire communication broke. I didn't care about your tears, didn't care about the fractures in your heart. Just focused strictly on tearing the stability of your universe clean apart. The arrogance was a fortress of maximum security, psychological shield mowing down your boundaries like a heavy tank crossing the open field. But the ledger is caught up, the numbers are matching the penalty score, the definitive finality of my independent war against your core.
He was a savage operator. He didn't care about the rules of the space.
Until the reality mirror slapped the truth directly into my face. I built a mountain of debt out of the kindness you gave me for free, the most terrifying demonstration of ego that a human can possibly see. No chemical high can cover the stench of the bridges I burned to ash, watching the entire structure of my legacy rightfully heavily crash. I am sitting in the empty room, drafting the text of this final report, admitting every single felony in front of the psychological court. The inventory gets hollow, the vanity is dropped down to the absolute low. The heart is self-liquidation that the matrix can't explicitly show.
I don't plead for the mercy. Don't ask for you to accept the hand.
Just laying the cold fact.
Audit the soul.
the count. Revowing the wreckage from the secondary impact collision zone. Counting up the casualties left stranded in the rubble alone. The collateral damage is extensive, a horrifying layout view. Systematically itemizing the wreckage that I brought to the crow. I was an unguided missile, a heavy-duty detonator blast, leaving a permanent toxic environment designed to safely outlast. No security margins left intact, no preservation of the peace, ensuring the magnitude of your suffering would never decrease. I look at the people who trusted my presence inside the room, realizing I was the primary architect of their professional doom. The entitlement was an engine running on the high-octane fraud, an empty simulation that the parasites all used to applaud. But the balance sheet is clear now, the deficit is heavy in gold. The most clinical documentation of betrayal ever explicitly told. I split the alliances, poison the wells of the cooperative lands, slamming the heavy iron hammer directly down with my own hand. Multi-syllabic itemization, calculating the human cost, realizing every single drop of your innocence is permanently lost. Because I was reckless, because I was blinded by the dark crown, watching the beautiful matrix of your loyalty tumble straight down. I am signing the audit sheet, taking total custody of the crime, wasting the premium assets of your devotion for a long time. The alibis are incinerated, the cover stories are turned to white, operating the confession machinery in the middle of midnight night. No sentimentality permitted for the ego that I have to slay, wiping the remaining traces of my own defenses completely away. The concrete is cold, but my boots hit the floor with the heavy weight, accepting the full-scale velocity of a self-inflicted dark fate. I am the independent surveyor of the ruins that I left behind, the ultimate cold-blooded execution of my corrupted mind. The foundry is melting the crown, the steel is hitting the floor dirt, permanently archiving the data points of your structural hurt.
Count the cost, own the wreck. Count the cost, count the cost, own the wreck, own the wreck. The baseline security has officially collapsed to zero.
Collateral damage,
The shards are in the core.
the definitive conclusion of my destructive war.
I broke the alignment.
I let the grids fall, the sovereign operation of the wreckage of it all.
The fortresses crumble,
The nation reshard.
playing the confession like a heavy-duty heart.
I look at the scars on your name, the scars on your beautiful face, an absolute visualization of the trauma I brought to the space. You gave me the shelter, gave me the key to the sanctuary vault, and the total contamination of the system is exclusively my fault. I was a thief in the night, a clinical predator seeking the state, indifferent to the catastrophic magnitude of the mistakes I made. The greed was a sickness, a black hole sitting deep in the chest, putting the loyalty of your entire family through a stress test. No compensation packages available, no golden parachutes found, just the raw debris of your trust lying scattered all over the ground. I bolt the doors of the courtroom shut, stepping inside the box, running down the final remaining minutes of the tactical clocks.
He was a ruthless entity. He didn't care about the pay until the avalanche of my own behavior derailed the engine tray.
I built a monument of fraud out of the hours you spent on the grind, the most sickening documentation of an overdriven internal mind. I checked the specification, checked the parameters of the layout design, failing to locate a single coordinate where the actions were fine. The isolation is a prison, the isolation is refinery hard. The supreme commander of a completely bankrupt perimeter guard. I don't look for the exit route, don't look for a loophole out, just standing flat-footed in the center of the disaster layout. The configuration is structural, the configuration is stone hard steel, completely unaffected by how my remaining allies might feel. Every single calorie spent on my ego was in direct death from the crown, watching the cardboard networks of the lookers tumble straight down.
I am the architect of the masonry that I am the architect of the masonry. The text, close the book. Sign the text, close the book.
The competitive vanity has officially dropped down to zero. Flipping the master control switches down to the absolute dead zero. The definitive concession of the fake competitive hero. I signed the paperwork step by
competitive vanity has officially dropped down to zero.
The concession, the master plan is dead. A permanent lockout happening inside of the head. I took all the blame, I melted into the stone. Standing in the center of the reckoning alone. From track casualty to the monarch architect mass. Completed the absolute self-liquidation task. I checked the automated ledger systems, running a diagnostic check clean. The flawless performance of a completely broken down machine. The infrastructure of my pride is massive, but the value is zero today. Watching the remaining traces of the illusion entirely slide away. I don't engage in a small talk, don't ask for a second chance. Code navigating the parameters of this highly fortified, remorseful role. The attention is a currency spent strictly on balancing the score. Refusing to let the velocity to beat accountability slow down anymore. They see the transformation happening, see the monolith, the pride fall. A terrifying calculation written directly across the interior wall.
He used to be regular, used to fight for his reputation name, until I broke completely out of the theatrical validation game.
I built a fortress out of the hours I spent auditing the drive, reclaiming the maximum velocity required to expand and survive. No entry points available for the eagle to intercept the line layout. Sovereign, independent master of the single pathway out and out. The environment is freezing, but the chassis remains tough and firm, dictating the absolute finality of the operational closure term. I don't offer the explanations or blend the cooperative shoe. The hard reset would perfectly letting the leverage of truth grow. The configuration is permanent, the columns are solid steel, rebar hard, completely unaffected by how the bankrupt rivals might feel on guard.
Every single drop of sweat is recorded inside the gold vault. And the dominance of my position is exclusively my own fault. I am the monarch of the architecture, the engine.